Radhe Radhe. Today is Saturday, 14th February 2026. Happy Gopi Prem Divas to all of our viewers, as well as this weekend of the special Mahashivratri occasion. And with that, we are here, of course, to present to you this recap video for today's Bhagavad Gita study session. Along with me, here is Mummy.
Radhe Radhe.
As I bring up the slides, we'll take a look at what we covered today. So on this front cover slide, we'll see we did chapter 12, verse 17, inching along our journey of chapter 12, Bhakti Yog. Of course, we started off with the usual recap quiz, had some fun there. So that was for last week's content on chapter 12, verses 15 and 16. As always, you can get all the slides, relevant supplementary material, etc., by looking at the description for this video. And all that is for your learning progress and benefit. We also, if you recall, had gone through the flyer from last time, which was this one for chapter 12, verses 15 and 16, after we did the recap quiz, to remind ourselves about how we associate each baby with one of the qualities in those two verses, and which one, of course, maybe had something different, yet also a devotee of the Supreme Lord. So trust everyone has that. I recommend taking notes and just take a copy of this perhaps and put the quality, the single quality that is associated with each baby here. And that's one way to remember the 10 qualities for chapter 12, verses 15 and 16. With that, we then get into chapter 12, verse 17, which is starting with today's content, more about devotees of the Supreme Lord.
Yo na hrishyati na dveshti, na shochati na kankshati, shubh ashubh parityagi, bhakti manya same priyaha.
So chapter 12, verse 17, another catchphrase of the R&R kind, this time as a question, R&R, renounce and rejoice. So it's something that you all are pondering about, perhaps, and we saw in the session as well. Renounce, yes, we have seen this many, many times. Renouncing, of course, worldly pleasures, things of a lower spiritual nature, etc. But then, do we rejoice after that? Do we enjoy? There is rejoicing of a spiritual kind, absolutely. Yet also, Sri Krishna says we should not be rejoicing in mundane pleasures, worldly gains, nor should we also rejoice when it is, of course, difficult times, for instance. It's about balance and equipoise. So here, if we look at chapter 12, verse 17, Sri Krishna is saying, all essentially in the vein of equipoise and equanimity. So devotees who are dear to him, they neither rejoice in mundane pleasures nor the opposite. They don't despair when there are worldly sorrows. They neither lament for any loss nor hanker for any gain. They renounce, what do they renounce? Both good and evil deeds. And of course, if they are full of devotion, they are very dear to him. So again, concepts and qualities we have seen often, certainly from as early as chapter 2. But again, here with the commentary, Swamiji gives examples that help elucidate upon those. So for instance, rejoicing in mundane pleasures or despairing in worldly sorrows, doing neither of those. Swamiji gives the example of standing under the noonday sun. Then when you're under the sun, it doesn't matter if you get more light from a lamp or somebody blows out that lamp or the candle. Likewise, if you are a devotee of the Lord, you're blessed with that divine love, divine bliss of God, and one rises above pleasure and despair. Again, equanimity, right? Neither lamenting for loss nor hankering for gain, keeping desires balanced or channeling them towards God, of course. Swamiji quotes again from the Narad Bhakti Darshan, as in some recent verses as well. And then again, he does take us back to chapter 4. So I encourage everyone to take a look at chapter 4, verses 17 through 20. He also mentions perhaps 14 through 20. So if we go there, chapter 4, verse 17 in particular is where these three kinds of actions are mentioned. Three kinds of work. So there is action, which is karma, more to do with rituals. There is the opposite of, which is forbidden action, vikarm. And then there is inaction, akarm. So do take a look and remind yourselves about those concepts and the examples Swamiji gives. And here, again, we're getting that reminder that if we can work without any selfish motive, then we are truly performing like a devotee, and that is akarm, inaction of that spiritual kind. To conclude all that, of course, Sri Krishna says, those who are full of devotion. So Swamiji gives the example of the moon. And again, we all would like to have that ocean of love for God and be one of those who is very dear to Sri Krishna. In fact, as we saw earlier here, rise above pleasure and despair. We saw that in the flyer, which is right here. What must you be full of to be very dear to Sri Krishna? And that is represented here as we want to be full of air, but that air of equanimity, air of equipoise, air of devotion. That's that balloon that's going to take us filled with divine love and warmth, filled with God in our hearts, and being true, dear devotees of the Lord. Mummy, over to you to add more.
Thank you, Gagan. Actually, it's a very straightforward verse, which is again talking about the qualities of the perfected devotees. Who are these perfected devotees? These devotees who have created loads of divine love in their hearts. Their hearts are enlightened with the light of bliss of God. For them, now there is no ignorance, as they have understood that anything that comes their way in their day to day lives, they are not going to be bothered by it, be it any object, be it any thought, be it any situation. So Krishna says such devotees are very, very dear to me. Basically, this is once again talking about that equanimous situation. That is what Sri Krishna has uh, said again and again and again. You don't have to be hankering for gain all the time, because that does not happen. Okay, sometimes gain, sometimes loss, sometimes good situation, sometimes bad situation. The only thing is, a devotee has conquered all the defects, all the five enemies sitting inside him, and he is risen above all that because he has surrendered fully to God, as he has full faith in God, and now he has loads of loving devotion for God. Okay, so that's why the devotee always remains in an equanimous, equipoise situation, right? Because he is dedicating all the works to God. He is doing everything for the pleasure of God. That is when it becomes a karma. So it is very, very important. So once you attain that divine love, then you do not care for a happiness or sorrow. Okay, because and you do not even hate people even when they harm you. Okay, because there is no love or liking for worldly enjoyments. And these people are basically simple people. These perfected devotees, they are not looking for some great worldly positions. Okay, they are totally simple and equipoised, and all the time having loads of love and devotion for God. So let's look at the word bhaktiman. Bhaktiman means full of devotion. Krishna says those people, those devotees who are full of devotion, they are very dear to him. And another important word is kankshati. Kankshati means they are not hankering for gain because they are in acceptance. They have aligned their will with God. Why they are in acceptance? Because they have full faith in God that whatever God will do, that will be good for us. Whether we think today it is good or bad for us, but in the long run, it will be good for us. So that is what these perfected devotees, they have this kind of attitude towards any situation, any object, any thought, any emotion that these devotees encounter in their day-to-day life. So basically, there's a lot of introspection needed for all of us, whereby we keep on being very alert and aware of each and every thought coming to our mind during the interactions with other people all the time. So let's understand that Krishna is saying that those devotees are very dear to him whose hearts are full of loving devotion for him. Over to you, Gagan.
Yeah, thank you, Mommy. And in fact, speaking of devotees with devotion towards Sri Krishna, we also had a chance to cover this meditation exercise in the session. So you're welcome to take a look at that link as well in the slide and practice whenever you like, or just watch the stills and, listen to the narration. We see, of course, Lord Shiva visiting baby Krishna and a very humorous exchange, discussions, etc., and how, of course, some concepts are also unveiled. But again, a Leela of the Supreme with the Supreme and truly helping us manifest more and more love for the Supreme Lord, especially, of course, in connection now with not just today's Gopi Prem Divas, but again, as we mentioned, with the Mahashivratri weekend. So, with that, we look forward to seeing you next time. That's going to be Saturday, 21st February 2026 from my side. Happy Gopi Prem Divas again and happy Mahashivratri.
Hmm. Let's take blessings from Radha Rani. Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Jai Jai Shri Radhe.